Welcome to Learning SQL on Azure. My name is Rafael. Azure is huge. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's go to the next slide and discover that. Here, as you can see, the Azure Platform Services. Here you'll notice that the Azure Platform Services offers a tremendous amount of technologies in different areas. Areas such as compute technology, integration, media, web and mobile devices, analytics, developer services, and of course here in the lower right hand corner, data services. And more specifically, we're going to be concentrating on this area right here, SQL databases. So let's continue on the next slide. As you can see, as I mentioned, Azure is a huge platform that offers many technologies. It is the last part of the Azure platform that we will cover in these two separate courses. Azure SQL for Beginners Part 1 and SQL Azure Server Beginners Part 2. So there'll be two separate courses. Now, SQL Server on-premises administration covers four primary areas, and those are SSMS, SSRS, SSIS, and SSAS. Our focus will be on SSMS, simply the management of the SQL environment. We are not going to cover SSRS or SSIS or SSAS. More specifically, we will cover what's called the Azure SQL Database Family technology as it relates to Azure SQL Databases, Azure Elastic Pool Databases, Azure Virtual Machines, and what's called Azure Managed Instances. This is the area that I'm going to be going over in these two courses and teaching you. At the end of these two separate courses, you will have a solid introductory foundation of how to manage, configure, navigate, develop, design, and deploy Azure SQL databases on this platform. Now, how to manage these courses. The following two separate courses are designed for the beginner in managing Azure SQL databases. It is an introduction to SQL database family technology. So take a note that this is not an intermediate course. This is not an advanced course. This is an introductory course for Azure in the SQL environment. Now, while these areas of SQL that relate to SQL Server management, such as SQL Data Warehouse, our focus will be on, again, Azure SQL databases. Now, this is an important thing to note, and very important thing to note. While this course, as the Azure, is a beginner's course for SQL databases on the Azure platform, it is not, and I emphasize, it is not a beginner course for SQL administration. There are prerequisites for taking these two courses, and they are the following. You should have taken at least my courses, or at least an understanding of Learn T-SQL. You should understand or have taken SQL Administration Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, or at least a minimum understanding of what SQL administration is all about, because I don't cover T-SQL when I demonstrate to you, and I don't cover the SQL concepts that we'll be migrating from on-premise to Azure when we talk about it. I expect you to know or have an understanding of how to read T-SQL scripts or what they're doing, and have an understanding of SQL Server technology. So this is a very important concept to take note of. Now, here are another very important things to know about Azure. Azure requires you to create an account that allows access to their platform. That's the first thing you're going to do. Now, this is the important part also. You are given, if this is the first time you're creating an account, a free credit of $200 to play with. Now, once you create a database or a virtual machine or a managed instance or an elastic database pool in the Azure environments, you are charged regardless of whether you're using the platform or not. Let me repeat that. If you create a database on the Azure platform, you are charged regardless, even if you've logged off. As long as you have deployed an SQL database or a virtual machine or a managed instance, you are charged by the hour, even if you're logged off. So I keep repeating this because there can be very costly if you don't follow what I'm talking about. Now, there are a few exceptions to this, but generally note that you're charged by the hour, and even if you're logged off, As long as you have a deployment of an SQL database or a managed instance or a virtual machine, you are charged by the hour. Now, to avoid getting charged when you're not using the Azure platform and staying within the $200 credit, what I've done is the following. I will deploy either the SQL database, the virtual machine, the managed instance, or the Elastic Pool databases. And then after each video has finished, I will show you how to destroy the entire environment and recreate the environment for the next video. This is very important that you follow this format. This will keep you within the $200 credit and not incur costs beyond the $200. Now, this will seem tedious at first, but I will have PowerShell scripts for you to execute in the PowerShell to recreate the databases or the virtual machines or the pools. So this is important, so let me emphasize this again. Once you create a database or the virtual machines or the MI, and after you finish that one lesson or two lessons, I want you to destroy it by destroying the resource group, as I will show you, and then restart in the second video. Now, the reason I'm doing that is because if you create a database on day one, and while it even costs a few cents a day, and then you forget and you don't come back to the course for a few weeks, then it will incur costs because you have not destroyed it, even if you've logged off. So that's very important. This is very important again. As I mentioned, you are charged for creating databases even if you're logged off. Therefore, you must destroy the resource group as I show you after each video. Now, it seems only a few cents a day. It may cost you 1 cent a day or 2 cents a day, and it may not add up to $200 of credit. But as I'll show you, using some parts of Azure can cost you, as we will see, a few dollars an hour. Now, a few dollars an hour times 24 times 720 hours a month can go way, way over $200 credit, and then suddenly you're going to be incurring cost on your credit card. Don't go beyond what I'm teaching you. What do I mean by that? Don't add millions of inserts for testing. This will cost you added storage cost. There are separate costs for creating, separate costs for storage, separate costs for utilization, and so on. So when I'm not teaching you to add millions of inserts, don't do that. Stay within the course of what I'm demonstrating to you. Now, this is important again. If you deviate from the course and don't follow the deletion of the resource group after each video, as I show you, and you forget to destroy the resource group, and then you come back a couple of weeks later or a few months later, and you've got these excessive charges that can go well beyond $200, I will not be held responsible. So I've said that many times to follow the course. If you follow the course, you will stay well within the $200 credit. Okay, so I'm going to leave it here with this important note. So in the next course, we'll start looking at the environment and get ready learning SQL on Azure. So my name is Raphael, and this is Learning SQL on Azure. See you in the next video.